our job in terms of finding talents for companies and, well, employers who are looking for professionals. Yes, it's said that Iran is full of educated people, full of talents. People study a lot, like 1.4 million students graduate every year. That's true, but the point is all companies are complaining that we can't find the right person who has the skills and who has the talents. Not the talents, but the skills and qualifications to find the job, to find the right person for the right job.
So is that a failure of the educational system, not knowing what the private sector wants?
That's what the companies say. The companies complain that the education system has problem in Iran, and that's the reason we can't find the skilled people here. But, I mean, on the other hand, I mean, the fact is that it's something which happens in every country. I mean, more or less, people coming out of universities, they don't have necessarily the skills which is needed for the job. Of course, universities outside Iran have like internship programs, which gives some sort of skills to the students. But at the end of the day, universities don't feel that they're responsible for giving those skills. They're responsible for giving the knowledge. So shifting from knowledge to skills needs practice, needs to practically doing that thing, that knowledge in a job. And that's the reason that I think multinationals came to a solution, not only in Iran, but also in different countries around the world, that they get fresh graduates, they get unskilled people and train them within their company. They set very productive training systems to develop those people. And in Iran, I mean, the majority of the companies complain that this is not our job. I mean, we're not responsible for training those people and giving them skills, and this is the problem with the education system. But at the end of the day, I mean, us as employers and companies have the need for those skills. So either we should act proactively and try to train those people, or we have to actually wait until something changes. We can see actually our companies working with us, Nestle, Henkel, Unilever. I mean, international companies are working a lot on like management trainees. I mean, they get students out of university, they train them a lot. Within a period of 5 years, they have their managers in place. So, I mean, they feel as the person, okay, no one else is going to do.
And then the person jumps ship and goes to another company.
Sorry?
And then the person who's been wonderfully trained then finds another job at a different...
Well, that's something which, I mean, Iranian companies usually say, we don't, why should we invest on people who are going to leave us within a couple of years? That might be true, but the thing is that, I mean, we ran a survey last year with our candidates, actually. We have a huge database of candidates. And we asked them, which companies do you like to join and have, if that company has the vacancy for you? And why do you want to join that company? The result of the survey was fantastic. I mean, the results said, I mean, I'm not going to say which company came first and then which company was second, but the reason was interesting. That although employers say that people like to work in a company where they get more salary, but that wasn't the first reason, that was the last reason. The first reason, they wanted to join a company where they could learn, where they could develop themselves.
Interesting. Let me put it, Hossein, you represent the educational sector here, so are you guilty of this talent gap because you are giving knowledge but not skills, or that's not your problem?
Actually, I partially agree with the lady from Tuyon Talent, but I have to mention that the university have been changing since a decade ago, and our university, Sharif University of Technology, has been the leading in this change. The universities have entered their third generation of practice. The first generation was some 50, 60 years ago. They used to only educate students. Then they moved on to research plus education. But right now, the society expects a lot more. The third generation of the universities are responsible for not only educating the students, but also giving them enough skills. And we do believe that the graduates of the university these days, they are not only students, are a small group of companies, knowledge-based companies. And therefore, the university has been planning programs in parallel with the education system. Our entrepreneurship systems, accelerator systems, incubation system, and technology park, they've been playing an important role in creating jobs over the past few years. Therefore, it's not 100% actually efficient, but they're trying their best. And right now, some of the best IT best and fintech companies are the outcome of Sharif University of Technology. So I think that we are going ahead and we are moving forward to the third generation, and we've been effective.
Ali, what's your view on?
You know, first of all, I have to thank Isfandiar for setting up such great forum, which the essence of this forum is dialogue, is knowing each other more, the thing that is getting more rare in the new world. But let's back to your question. You know, the empowerment of the talent is the lack of what we have in Iran. But during these 5 or 6 years, that the new economy that I call digital economy has came to the presence of the Iranian economy. Basically, these talents understood that they can build their own business. So they have to transit from an employee to a ownership of the business. So they understood that they have to be empowered. But how? The point is that we need such ecosystem in which they can learn and then act, learn and act. What we call in business is accelerators. They are empowered those talents to act and then learn. By the means of that, in digital economy, people knows that they can have their own business. So
I don't want to get sort of lost in all the management jargon, but why an accelerator rather than an incubator?
Why? Basically, during these 5 or 6 years, that incubators came to the action of the economy, the part of this economy. They understood that people who we call them talents are in lack of skills that Mrs. Hatami said. But basically, these talents need to a stage to perform at that stage. So we need these incubators and accelerators.
You need both. Yeah. Sharif, what's your view on all of this?
I am perhaps a little bit of a disagreement with my fellow panelists. I don't think their pictures...
That's always good to have conflict.
Yeah, there's got to be a little bit of clash.
As long as it's peaceful.
No, I'm not. I don't see such a rosy picture in a sense that we are not, our infrastructure, our labor laws, our day-to-day, what you need for managing a company. We're not only a digital economy, or we're not only, let's say, issue of soft talents that we're lacking. I think what's fundamentally missing, and this goes on an industrial level, because you have to look at agriculture, you have to look at basic industries, you have to look at shipping, you have to look at infrastructure. There's a lot of gaps that, in my opinion, does not render Iran fully ready for the 21st century competitive economy. We are, if you just look at basics, and I run a factory in Iran, and I know the numbers quite well. If you look at apple to apple, a basic labor force in Iran is 30% more expensive than India. And when you look deeper, why is it 30% more expensive? it really goes back to the fundamentals of regulations, management, and also working hours. So there's a lot of gap, but there's also, you have to look at it as a glass half full.
So it's nothing to do with exchange rates or anything. It's
That-
essentially
it's
a productivity problem.
In addition to the exchange rate. I mean, today I know there was a lot of banking discussions, a lot of financial discussions, but on an industrial level, we still have a lot of catching up to do.
Yeah.
But what is interesting is our near abroad, our markets that are close to us, are very receptive to our products, very receptive to made in Iran products. So it only takes time for our industrialists to take advantage of this situation and start growing the economy. But I fundamentally believe that there are huge gaps, and these gaps need to be addressed by the government, but also by the private sector in a sense, such as my fellow panelists are doing in a university level, on a digital economy, and also, of course, the HR and the talent scouts. So I'm not rosy, I guess.
I'm struck that you use the comparison with India.
Yes.
And about regulation.
Yes.
I mean, India is famous for its regulations.
Yes.
For the
That's
burden
why we compared it to
regulations.
India.
So you mean in Iran it's even worse?
No, it's not worse. Why we picked India to compare was because we wanted to make sure what we are comparing is the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So on a regulatory basis, we figured it is as complicated as Iran, if not more, but similar. But at the same time, we wanted to compare the same equipment, what we were building. So it had to be the same steel we were using, same gear motors, same labor hours. So we wanted to make sure we're not comparing cars with, let's say, agricultural sector. That's why we saw, and when we did the analysis, the raw material came about 10% more expensive, but what was striking was the labor force, which renders us completely uncompetitive in today's world.
I say, I mean, when you're looking for talent, are you aiming at particular sectors, or is it right across the board? Where do you find these gaps?
What do we find?
Where do you find the gaps, the deficiencies?
Well, actually, there are gaps in different places. I mean, moving out of university and not having a quality internship before going to the job market is one of the gaps. I mean, the gap between the businesses and the university is a huge gap, which if they befriend more with each other would surely help a lot.
Do businesses conventionally offer internships?
Sorry?
Do businesses offer internships?
Well,
or only to members of the family?
And on the other hand, on universities, I mean, I know for the technical subjects it's mandatory to have internship, but that really I mean, it doesn't really happen seriously. They don't take the internship serious, and also the businesses don't take it serious. But I mean, these are all things which are needed, but I think the most important thing which I noticed during, working with different businesses, in my personal experience, the people I saw as they were growing and developing, is the exposure. I think the exposure plays a great role.
Yeah.
You can see people who have experience working like in Japanese companies. I mean, you can see like there are specifications about them. I mean, they're like hard workers. When you see people who have the experience of working in Chinese businesses, you can see them as multitasking, and you see the ones working for European firms. They're very organized, documented on every project, and when they're going to find a solution, they try to dig down and find the problem first.
So if someone is only working in an Iranian company and has never had experience of a foreign company, what's wrong with them?
No, I'm not saying something is wrong with them. What I believe that having the exposure, Iranians having the exposure to the international business environment would actually make the growth and the development much, much quicker.
Yeah.
And I'm not just talking about the junior level and the specialists. I'm even talking about the managerial levels. I mean, we always say in Iran that management has problem or leadership has problem. But I mean, managers believe that they're doing everything. I mean, they say, okay, what's wrong? I've done this and done that, but still my people are not motivated in their company. And what is wrong with these employees? Or they say, okay, I've done everything, but I mean, the profit is that much. I mean, the market has problems. I don't say there is no problem. Surely the education has some issues. The market has lots of issues, economic policy. I mean, everything needs to be fixed. But the thing which I believe, there is a disconnect between the Iranian business environment and the international business environment. And if we can make these two closer to each other, the management style, the management will have changes. They will develop them. And once the managers are developed, then the businesses will develop.
Ali, do you agree?
The point is that basically I do agree with Mrs. Hatami, but some of people who are worked with in foreign countries and even for multinational companies have some challenges in the Iranian businesses, in the Iranian companies. And most of these Iranian companies are in traditional economy. They are big. They have been worked for 25 years, 30 years. And the culture gets more rigid. But new talents like to be flexible, to be improved during working days. And this is the problem that Iranian talents are tangling with.
I mean, going back to this thing about management, I mean, are there MBAs in Iran? Are there business schools?
Yes, for sure. We have a bunch of them.
Are they good?
It depends on how you see them. But I myself have been working for the largest operator in the Middle East.
Yeah.
But I started recently DBA in Sweden because the lack of empowerment in business schools in Iran is really irritating.
Interesting, interesting. Hussein, I mean, this is another criticism of academia. I mean, academia is essentially immune from sanctions, if I understand correctly. You are not theoretically subject to sanctions. And yet have sanctions actually hurt you?
As you said, academia is not subjected to sanctions, and hopefully for the past few years we haven't been facing that much difficulty in getting connections with European universities and even firms. And we have signed MOUs with EPFL, KTH, and some other universities in the US even, Canada, China, and South Korea. And there hasn't been any kind of problem in terms of research cooperation. So I think we are better off. I mean, as compared to the industries, we have a better situation in terms of sanctions. But there are still difficulties sometimes in terms of high-tech lab equipment. They might put us some pressure when you want to buy high-tech equipment for your high-tech labs. But I don't see that much of a difficulty. The things are getting much better after the JCPOA has been signed, and I think that the future will be better.
I mean, we're 2017, and you're all young people. So go ahead sort of 20 years. Let's assume that Donald Trump does not do anything terrible with the JCPOA.
Or gets re-elected.
Actually, there was a story the other day about a Trump dynasty. So 2 terms of Donald Trump and then 2 terms of Ivanka. So who knows? Let's put that thought aside. Let's try to aim at the middle of this century, the 21st century. What sort of economy should Iran have?
Look, in my opinion, Iran will develop, but it will develop on its own. It will not develop because of JCPOAs to come or Donald Trump's to come. Iran has to find local solution to its local problems on a regulatory basis, on the industrial basis, on a talent basis, on a lot of issues on an environmental basis. We have a lot of local problems. If we make progress on 20% for example, on the endemic corruption that now cripples the economy, it is by far more effective than any Credit Suisse or UBS coming back. So my opinion, 20 years from now, if we don't tackle our own problems, we'll be sitting exactly where we are today. We have to be brave enough. The government has to take some hard decisions, take a look at some hardcore data and decide, look, we're going to do it differently. If we continue relying on the price of oil to save us every time we get into trouble, we're going to be sitting here talking about, oh my God, when are the sanctions going to be lifted? I am a belief that we are approaching those difficult decisions very soon. And once those difficult decisions are made, then you could potentially see Iran develop to all this potential. We keep talking about, I mean, it's the fourth time I attend the forum, the potential. Okay, when is this potential become a reality? The day will become reality if we inside Iran, the government plus the private sector, starts making the hard decisions. We're avoiding the hard decisions because the price of oil is very nice and cushy and it gives us a good buffer. The moment those decisions are made, then you see Iran develop, and next time we're here, you feel it.
Price of oil, mind you, is only kind of $50.
Yes, exactly. It's quite good. It's quite good.
Quite good in comparison with, yes, but you know what I mean. It's,
yeah.
Asaya, what do you think? Do you agree that these are the challenges? We're talking 20 years now.
Well, actually, I don't. I partially agree, but maybe I disagree with just one sentence, and that is, for sure, government plays the greatest role in development. I mean, with setting some rules and regulations, it could make everything faster towards development. With some set of regulations, could be the bottleneck for every sort of development. So rules and regulations plays a great role, but I think before that is actually finding the problem. I mean, finding the bottlenecks and the problems. What I noticed from the activities of recent years of government has done, I think they do try to find the bottlenecks. I mean, they've taken some initiatives, not sure how much effective they've been, but like having that, putting support on knowledge-based businesses is a sort of initiative. Or like, they are trying, but as Mr. Sharif said, there are some hard decisions to make. For whatever businesses you ask, what is your number one problem? I think that would be rules and regulations.
I mean, Sharif mentioned corruption. It seems to me that one incentive for corruption is regulation. The more regulations you have, the more tempting it is to somehow avoid them.
Sorry, can I just add one more thing? I mean, I think the first thing is that just remove all rules and regulations which are unnecessary. Because they're sometimes stopping us from, from moving ahead. But if they make those hard decisions, and if actually these walls around Iran just break down, and we have that international exposure, I believe we can grow a lot.
Hossein, do you agree? We're talking 20 years from now, okay? And then I'm going to throw it open to the audience.
Yeah, I do agree. I think the country has found its own way, which has to be independent from its natural resources like oil and gas. And the government and all the authorities have come to this conclusion that the economy must be based on talent and knowledge-based companies. So everybody is moving toward that issue. It takes time, but I think all these resources of the government have put on this fact that the university must play an important role in creating knowledge-based companies. And the experience in the US and other countries has shown that this is the only way that we have to go on. And I don't think that it might put some delay the decisions made by the US authorities, but the path will not change. And I think that the country and the people have found their own way and they move forward to this fact.
Ali.
I don't have crystal ball, but the thing which I think is that unemployment is the crisis that rise in Iran in the very near future, and government understood that each employment in traditional economy.
It will arise. Why?
Sorry.
You say unemployment will be a great challenge, but why? Why will there be increased unemployment?
Because there is a lack of investment in Iran, and investment in traditional economy cost for each employment cost around 1 billion tumans, which is around 250,000 US dollar. But in the new economy,
With
it
the
costs just,
digitization, etc.
yeah, 1,000. For instance, in our company, Sarava,
Yeah.
we invested more than 500 million US dollar. And now, in the whole holding, more than 3,500 people are working. And it's something that government has to do in traditional economy. So government understood that bringing these new economies based on empowerment of the talents would help him to overcome this crisis.
Okay, let me throw to the audience. Gentleman on the left there, and then the young lady next to him. And it's on the left-hand side, or my left-hand side, and a microphone is rushing over. Well, it's a relative concept. No, keep going. Right on the edge, the young man standing up there. Young is also relative, of course.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Hassan Alakman from Unison Investments in London. First of all, I wanted to say thank you to Mr. Nizam Mafi for the observations you had. I'm completely on board with you on that. For a question for Mrs. Hatami. In all the businesses that we have run in Iran over the years, our biggest challenge has been finding proper professional management teams.
Sorry, our main problem was?
Finding professional management teams. When I speak to some of our local friends there, they say the Iranian mentality is either you're an employee or an entrepreneur. And the country cannot be built on the basis of employees and entrepreneurs. It has to be based on professionalism. Do you see that changing over the years?
Good question.
Sorry.
Did you get the question? The
What was
criticism?
the last question? Yeah. Well, why not? We always say that the Iranian drivers you see in the streets of Tehran, you never see them in the streets of like San Francisco. I really believe that people act based on the place they sit and what is expected out of them and the system they're in. I strongly believe that people develop based on the people they have interaction with and the system they sit on. So if we have those systems, which we have seen successful companies who are happy about their employees, about the motivation, about the professionalism, about all these things which we are not happy about our own employees, we can see that there are environments and there are systems and procedures that people are moving the way we want. So what we need, I think, in our businesses are, we have sample professional people, and then we need to bring others and put them in that procedure, in that system, and make them grow and be the professionals which you were talking about.
Okay, and the lady next door, yes.
Yeah, sure. Eddie Germay from the European Council on Foreign Relations. Since we're looking at the 21st century economy, I wanted to ask about your impressions on the next wave of leaders for Iran. And a question for each of the panelists. Sharif, you mentioned the problem of corruption. Do you see the young generation, the millennials, will they be trapped in the system, or are they going to be able to push for small incremental reforms? Is there the environment for that? Ms. Hatami, it's always a pleasure to listen to you. You're doing some incredible work in Iran. And I guess a question for both yourself and Dr. Mokhtari is, Iran has always had this problem with brain drain. And the government of Rouhani was actively trying to reverse or slow down that trend. But we've seen that trend continuing and perhaps in some ways accelerating. What is the government doing, and what are organizations like yourself doing to maintain that talent pool that Iran really does have inside the country, and also track those who've left Iran to return and actually be entrepreneurs and be the professionals that the country needs? And then the last question for Ali, you mentioned the tech industry. This is an area that European leaders that I've been talking to are looking at ways where there can be cooperation, particularly between the European sectors and Iran. Is there the environment inside Iran, fast forward 10 years, for that to really be an area where European businesses can contribute to building that framework inside Iran, to contribute to those jobs that are much needed.
Okay. Before you all forget what you were asked,
I got
Sharif.
the most difficult one, I think. But look, corruption is something, is a reality. You cannot argue that people in Iran are more corrupt than, let's say, people in France or people in Japan or people in Australia. What is different is the implementation of regulation and laws, and of course, people's respect of that. I think Asya correctly mentioned the issue of driving. I mean, you see that on the streets of Tehran. There's a lack of fundamental respect for basic laws. So I think it's a cultural issue. And you mentioned young people. Do the young people are better off now or they're worse off their parents? I think people are taking it as a reality of their day, that this is how business should be conducted. And
So they're taking, young people are, I didn't catch that.
the young people, they are taking it for granted that this is how business is conducted. And this is a dangerous thing because it becomes almost like a cancerous issue.
So will they be trapped by the same phenomenon?
Absolutely. I think this is a responsibility of the government and the private sector to put a fundamental end to these practices. And you can start it from the bottom up by teaching the kids, and you can start from top down by implementing the regulations. It cannot be done one way or another. You cannot say it's only top down or only bottom up. It has to be a absolute joint work from every sector of the society if we want to make a progress on this issue.
Okay, that's right.
Actually, I have two answers. One is that during the recent years, we have seen the trend of Iranians, educated, experienced outside Iran, they're interested in moving back. That's a good sign. And we have seen them starting new businesses with the experience they've gained outside Iran, overseas. They've come to Iran, they are starting their own businesses, and I can see some sort of support from government, trying to bring them back. But about people who are still interested in going outside, surely that is not just one reason. I mean, they're like culture, economy, politics, everything together, which actually makes people, even sometimes their own family, the combination of everything is making them to leave. But the one thing which might be related to our business is how much they can use their potentials, how much they can use how much could they be productive, and that's the thing which makes them stay and feel to be proud of themselves. They want to move somewhere else so that they feel they're making some change in the world. And I believe making some changes in the businesses in Iran to be able to use the talents is something that, we can see the trend. To build an environment in different businesses so they can grow, they can develop themselves, and they can be productive. And I think that would be very helpful.
Hussein, any comments on this, on brain drain?
Yeah. I just want to give you an example of what I saw at Sharif University, as Ms. Harami mentioned. It's not just the salary they get when they go abroad. I have students in our startup programs, which are paid a little, but they're hoping to start their own business. Some of them have admissions from the best universities in the US, like Stanford, like Purdue University. After 1 year, they haven't left the country because they feel that they can be helpful and they have their own business. In some of our spin-off companies, there are people who are getting even much more salary than their friends who left Iran and they're working for a company like Google. So I think the situation is very promising, and the government is also doing its best from supporting of these entrepreneurship programs, startup programs, and knowledge-based companies, and that would give a good motivation to those students who want to stay at home and do their best for their country.
Ali?
If I want to answer your question simultaneously, basically in Sarava, we raised more than $200 million from foreign investors. One from UK-based, asset manager, the other from Belgium, and the third one was from Sweden. So we have had such experience from European companies. And the other point is that right now we are sensing that there is a reverse brain. I myself in the company have had such experience with those who are graduated from MIT and Stanford. They're right now in Tehran, and they are, doing their businesses, and some from, other countries. So, I mean, that those who are graduated, Iranian people graduate from, companies, from universities, feel that there are something in lack in Iran. So they are coming back to their country and starting their own businesses.
We're running over time a little bit, but two questions. Gentleman there and the lady there.
So it seems one of the ways...
Can you say who you are?
Oh, sorry. My name is Raul Harad. I'm head of finance for Asia and the Middle East at Solidians. So it seems one of the ways to develop talent is by having expats come into Iran and develop the talent locally. Could you comment on the current situation of ease or difficulty of expats getting working visas to come to Iran, and how they're being taxed, repatriation of personal funds, etc., as a way to train Iranians locally?
Okay, good question. I'll hold it for a second. And the lady just there. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mariam. I've been working as HR for the last 11 years. It's a pleasure to see you from Iran Talent, finally to have a face. I have noticed that a lot of expats, or mostly Iranians like myself, who have been studying abroad, during interviews, it's very, you can notice as HR that they're more international mindset, and you don't need to spend that much training on them when they come into the business. But Iranians locally, there are much more trainings that you need to give them because they're not used to international companies. I'm more thinking about the educational system, what we can do to have these graduates ready to come and work. So my question is are we doing anything for that? I guess mostly to you, Mr. Mukhtari.
Okay, and is there a final question as well, a third question? In that case, let me lob those two questions to... I say, you're always in the hot seat here, but let's start, Sharif. Let's start with Sharif.
Well, I mean, as far as expats...
I mean, expats, yes.
Yes, expats. It's not difficult. It is not easy either. We have a policy, at least in the company I work for, that we're now using full 100% local talent. I think Iran, you're not going to have a problem finding good engineers, good scientists, good mathematicians that are needed for your operation as far as international companies are concerned. What is lacking is what Asi also mentioned. Those are the soft talents, the HRs, the managers. Those are the PRs, the marketing talents. Those you will have more difficult time finding. And I don't think any international company would really want to bring an expat for that purpose.
So you're going to discriminate against expats when give them a visa?
It is not a difficult thing to get visas.
I'm just teasing you, but...
Yeah.
Well, it's not difficult, but I think if the government could actually change, make it easier. I mean, I really, as I said, believe in exposure. Why do they bring managers in marketing and so on? Because they need to bring give the exposure to the juniors to grow up, not only technically, but also to learn the working disciplines.
Yeah.
And I believe one of the things that governments need to review is rules and regulations to make it easier to hire foreigners.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the other question about, sorry, what was
it? It was really whether you're better off if you're an Iranian coming from abroad or an Iranian or a local Iranian. Was that basically it? No.
Oh, yeah, what we should do on education.
Yeah.
Actually, well, I don't talk about education, maybe that's his expertise, but what I strongly believe that we need to bring students, at the time they're a student at university, we need to have programs to bring them an experience coming to a company, at least for working, staying there for a week or two or a month, to have a sense of how working discipline is. I mean, I had just quickly a short experience of, I was going to IIT University in India to interview candidates for international companies. It was so interesting for me to see, I mean, there was 1 week or 2 week internship program or recruiting program that from everywhere in the, I mean, not everywhere in the world, but many countries, they came on that day in IIT University in India. They interviewed candidates to hire them as interns. And when I interviewed candidates, I found that the ones who have the internship experience of even a month going to another country or going to another company, I mean, 180 degrees, they're different to the ones who don't have this experience. Maybe they haven't really done something related to their studies. That doesn't matter. The main thing is that they need to feel what is the working standard, because the working culture is very much different to studying culture and the life at university.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very, very briefly, though, yes.
I understand, and the internship would be great if we had it. It's more or less what we say as a development HR, it's on the job that you develop. And the same during universities. We have a lot of projects going on during universities abroad. In Iran, it's very technical. So you get a book, you memorize it, not all universities, of course. So you're not fit when you're out of the university. So why should I not? I would love to give this opportunity to Iranian locally and stop getting only expats coming in or Iranians abroad. That's what I'm asking. What can we do during the university period that people have more project working?
We have tried to not only send the students to the industry, but we, through our industrial relations office, the contracts we sign with the industry, we have tried to bring industries into the university. So students get involved in the real projects with industry and they learn how to react, how to cooperate with others in a team, in real industrial projects. So as Mrs. Adami said, it might not be related to his own proficiency, what he studies at the university, but he learns how to work in a team, how to work on a real industrial project, how to write a business plan for a project, how to interact with customers. They learn all these regulations. So this is an extra curriculum they get within the university. Of course, not all the universities have offered this program. We are giving this as a kind of extra program for the students, and we believe that they are needed. And also, we're also changing our curriculum in the near future to get students more involved in real, practical life they will see after graduation.
Okay, good. Ali, you have the very last word.
Yeah. My friends talked about universities, but I believe that most of the talents that are changing something in the world are not in universities. You cannot find them in universities because universities standardized people. So we have to find a way to find these talents who are really originals. I mean, I call them originals. They change something.
Richard Branson, perhaps. Yeah. On that positive note, I think a big round of applause because we have the final keynote speaker about to come. Thank you very, very much. A great panel. Thank you.